Hare Krishna. My name is again Ramiya, and I'm from the Alachua Temple, working here with all the devotees trying to help you have a nice program here. So today we're going to read about some incidents, activities of Lord Chaitanya. Specifically, these have been, I'm reading here from the introduction to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana. Prabhupada has given in the introduction some description of the life and activities of Lord Chaitanya. It's very interesting. Let me begin here with an activity when he was a very young child, living in the home of his parents, and a Brahmin said once a pilgrim Brahmin was received at the house of Jagannath Mishra. Jagannath Mishra was the father of Lord Chaitanya. And when he was offering food, this Brahmin, the Lord appeared before him, Lord Chaitanya, and partook of the prepared food. So the eatables had to be rejected because the child had touched them. And the Brahmin had to cook and make cook all over again. So if anyone touches or takes the food before it's offered to Krishna, it can't be offered. And then you have to cook it again. Well, he was eating it. So the next time the Brahmin cooked, the same thing happened. And he tried on a third time to cook and prepare everything he was ready to offer. And the baby was finally put to bed. So Lord Chaitanya, as a young baby, was put to bed. And at about 12 o'clock at night, when all the members of the family were fast asleep within their closed rooms, this Brahmin offered his specially prepared foods to the deity. And in the same way, baby Lord Chaitanya appeared before the pilgrim and spoiled his offerings by eating them. The Brahmin then began to cry because he had cooked now 3 times, and each time baby Lord Chaitanya had eaten them. So he began to cry, but since everyone was fast asleep, no one could hear him. At that time, the baby Lord Chaitanya appeared before the fortunate Brahmin and disclosed his identity, that he was actually Krishna himself. So he was seeing Lord Chaitanya, and then he saw Krishna. He transformed himself into Krishna. But the Brahmin was forbidden to tell anyone about this incident, and the baby returned to the lap of his mother. So I ask you a couple questions here. Anyone remember why the pilgrim was so upset? The Brahmin, why was he upset? Yes, the baby was eating the food before he could offer it to the deity of Krishna. And what everyone went to bed, and the baby was sleeping, baby Lord Chaitanya. And then what happened? Anybody remember? The Brahmin was cooking again. And what happened this time? You know? He came and ate the food one more time. And then what did the Brahmin do? He cried because he was completely frustrated. 3 times he cooked, and 3 times the offering was spoiled. Anyone then remember what baby Lord Chaitanya did? What's that? He transformed into Krishna. This is the nature of Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. Sometimes we hear people say they're an avatar, but he actually is Krishna. Come in the form of a devotee. And what did he tell the Brahmin not to do then? Anyone remember?
Not to disclose.
That's right. He couldn't tell anyone what he had saw. That always was the pattern. Whenever Lord Chaitanya revealed that he was Krishna, he would forbid them from telling anybody. In this way,
What is the reason?
because he was considered what you might call Gupta incarnation, hidden. He didn't want to be known as Krishna. I mean, people would know, some people would know, but he wasn't advertising himself as Krishna. He was presenting himself as a devotee of Krishna. Hmm. Hmm. Trying to get one that's not too long here. There was one time a great scholar. His name was Keshava Kasmiri, and he came to visit this town where Lord Chaitanya lived. Now, this is when he was older. He was in school. Hmm. And this Pandit was a champion scholar, was famous all over India. He had traveled to many places of, education and demonstrated his great learning. And he finally came to Navadvip, and all the learned Pandits were there. So the Pandits of Navadvip decided to match Nimai Pandit, which is the name of Lord Chaitanya, with the Kashmir Pandit, thinking that if Nimai Pandit were defeated, they would have another chance to debate with the scholar, for Nimai Pandit was only a boy. So it happened that Nimai Pandit, Lord Chaitanya, met Keshava Kasmiri while he was walking along the bank of the Ganga. So before they arranged anything to happen, they met privately. Hmm. And the Lord requested him to compose a Sanskrit verse in praise of the Ganges River. So he was expert Pandit. He could compose verses very quickly in Sanskrit. Hmm. So the Pandit, within a short time, composed 100 shlokas. Just like the wind, he just started reciting. Brand new, just made slokas. Hmm. Showing the strength of his vast learning. And Nimai Pandit, young boy, Lord Chaitanya, at once memorized all the shlokas. So the Pandit had just spoken them. No one had ever heard them before, and Nimai Pandit memorized them. And then he pointed out errors in the shlokas, some things that he didn't quite compose correctly. He spoke them when the Pandit, Kashmiri Pandit he spoke them so fast it was like the wind blowing. Just flew right out of his mouth. And Lord Chaitanya, he heard them all, memorized them all, and he pointed out the faults. Hmm. So he particularly pointed out the Pandit's use of the word Bhavani Bhartu. He pointed out that the use of this word was redundant because Bhavani means the wife of Lord Shiva, and who else can be her Bharta or husband but Lord Shiva? So to call Lord Shiva the Bhavani Bharta was like repetitious. To say it twice. He also pointed out several other discrepancies, and the Kashmir Pandit was struck with wonder. He was astonished. Not only could he memorize them, but he could find so many literary mistakes, even though he was a very great scholar. So all this happened prior to any public meeting. The public meeting was supposed to come the next day. And news was spreading all over the city of Navadvip, where Lord Chaitanya lived, about this meeting. But Keshava Kasmiri that night had a dream. Sometimes people have very special transcendental dreams. And in that dream, his Istadev, his worshipful deity, Saraswati, the goddess of learning, appeared before him. And she was very upset that he was trying to debate with her master, because she recognized Lord Chaitanya as being non-different from Krishna, and she didn't want her devotee, Kashmiri Pandit, to in any way disturb her Lord. So he told her to go. She told him to go and submit to become his disciple. So in this way, the Kashmiri Pandit became a follower of Lord Chaitanya. Mm. So can anybody remember a few things from this story? First of all, who was this great scholar? Anyone know? Keshava Kashmiri. Yes, from Kashmir, Pandit. And what did they want him to do when he came? Hmm? Defeat who? Nimai Pandit, Lord Chaitanya. He wanted to debate because he had a reputation, Nimai Pandit, being a great scholar. So they want him to debate. So then, they met secretly on the bank of the Ganges. Then what happened? Lord Chaitanya, what did he ask him to do? Some verses about the Ganga. And how many did he compose? Anybody? 100. Just like that. Hmm? And then what did Lord Chaitanya do? He memorized them. And then what? He found the faults. If I sit here and read shlokas, can you memorize them while I read them? And if I mispronounce one, will you know? Maybe not. Maybe, if you're a good Sanskrit scholar, you'll know. But so, finally, actually, what happened? What happened that night? Anyone remember? Dream. Oh, and who came? Saraswati. And what did she tell him? Was she happy with him? He's her devotee. No, he was upset because he was trying to defeat her master. So what did she tell him to do? You said? To become Lord Chaitanya's disciple. So here you can see he was a very great scholar known all over India. Came to Navadvip, had to debate Lord Chaitanya, and he had to become the disciple of Lord Chaitanya. He was completely defeated by him. But he didn't embarrass him publicly. Very important. If he had embarrassed him publicly, it would have been very difficult for him to continue his life, because in those days their reputation would have been totally ruined. So Lord Chaitanya was very careful to defeat him privately. And he became his disciple that way. Okay, let's go forward in his life a little further. See, wow. Now this is a different incident. This isn't directly about Lord Chaitanya. It is in the end, not in the beginning. So Lord Chaitanya has two associates. One is standing next to him. What is his name? Anyone know? Nitai. And they have another one who follows with him also. He's famous for being the Namacharya. Anyone know? No, this is a different person. Haridas Thakur. He was actually born in a Muslim family. And he was known as Namacharya because he used to chant more than 100,000 names of Krishna every day. And the Muslims were very unhappy because they asked him why he had become a Hindu. But he was expert at convincing them become devotees of Krishna. So once, Lord Nityananda and Srila Haridas Thakur were walking down the main road, and on the way they saw a roaring crowd assembled, and upon inquiring from the passerbys, they understood that the two brothers named Jagai and Madai were creating a public disturbance in a drunken state. Jagai and Madai were drunk and creating a disturbance. They also heard that these two brothers were born in respectable Brahmin families. So they weren't just ordinary people. They were Brahmins, the priestly class, very respectable. But because of low association, they have turned into debauchees of the worst type. They were not only drunkards, they were also meat eaters, woman hunters, dacoits, meaning thieves, and sinners of all description. Srila Nityananda Prabhu heard all these stories and decided that these two fallen souls must be the first ones to be delivered to chanting Hare Krishna. If they were delivered from their sinful life, then the good name of Lord Chaitanya would be even more glorified. Thinking in this way, Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas pushed their way through the crowd and asked the two brothers to chant the holy name of Lord Hari. So here they're drunk and they're carrying on creating a disturbance, and they walk right up to him and ask him to chant the name of Lord Hari. They're pretty bold, but they wanted them to get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. The drunken brothers became enraged upon this request and attacked Nityananda Prabhu with filthy language. Both brothers then chased them a considerable distance. In the evening, the report of the preaching work was submitted to Lord Chaitanya, and he was glad to learn that Nityananda and Haridas had attempted to deliver such a stupid pair of fellows. The next day, Nityananda Prabhu went to see the brothers, and as soon as he approached one of them, they threw a piece of an earthen pot, a clay pot, at him. And this struck him right in the forehead, and immediately blood began to flow. But Nityananda Prabhu was so kind that instead of protesting this terrible act, he said, "It doesn't matter that you have thrown the stone at me. I still request you to chant the holy name of Lord Hari." So he was just attacked and put a gash in his head. It was bleeding, and he said, "That's okay. Just chant Hare Krishna." One of the brothers, Jagai, was astonished to see this behavior of Nityananda Prabhu, and he at once fell down at Lord Nityananda's feet and asked him to pardon his sinful brother. When Madai attempted to hurt Lord Nityananda a second time, Jagai stopped him and implored him to fall down at his feet. Meantime, the news of Nityananda's injury had reached Lord Chaitanya, who at once hurried to that spot in a fiery and angry mood. The Lord immediately invoked his Sudarshan chakra. You all know what that is? It's Lord Krishna's weapon, and it's a chakra. And when he releases it, cuts off the demon's head. Can't be stopped. So Lord Chaitanya was there. He called for the Sudarshan chakra. He was ready to kill this person who had struck Nitai. To kill the sinners. But Nityananda reminded him of his mission. The mission of the Lord was to deliver the hopelessly fallen souls of Kali Yuga. And the brothers Jagai and Madai were typical examples of these fallen souls. 90% of the population of this age resembles these brothers, despite high birth and mundane respectability. And according to the verdict of revealed scriptures, the total population of the world in this age will be of the lowest Shudra quality, or even lower. It should be noted that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never acknowledged the stereotyped caste system by birthright. Rather, he strictly followed the verdict of the Shastra in the matter of one's swarup, or his real identity. So when Lord Chaitanya was invoking his Sudarshan chakra, Nityananda Prabhu was imploring him to forgive the two brothers. Both of the brothers fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord and begged his pardon for their gross behavior. The Lord was also asked by Nityananda Prabhu to accept these repenting souls, and the Lord agreed to accept them on one condition, that henceforward they completely give up all their sinful activities and habits of debauchery. Both of the brothers agreed and promised to give up all their sinful habits, and the kind Lord accepted them and did not again refer to their past misdeeds. This is the specific kindness of Lord Chaitanya. In this age, no one can say he is free from sin. It is impossible for anyone to say this, But Lord Chaitanya accepts all kinds of sinful persons on one condition, that they promise not to indulge in sinful habits after being spiritually initiated by a bona fide spiritual master. There are a number of instructive points to be observed in this incident of the two brothers. In Kali Yuga, practically all the people are of the quality of Jagai and Madai. If they want to be relieved from the reactions of their misdeeds, they must take shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and after spiritual initiation, thus refrain from those things which were prohibited in the Shastras. Prohibitory rules are dealt with in the Lord's teachings to Srila Rupa Goswami. So here, let me ask a couple of questions. Who were the two devotees that went out preaching here to find? Anyone remember what their names are? How about one of them? Haridas, right? Haridas. Okay. And when who did they go and meet? Jagai and Madai. And were they chanting and acting nicely already? What were they doing? They were drunk. Drunk and disorderly, yeah, probably, yeah. But what was their background? What kind of persons, families did they come from? They were Brahmin families. And what did Lord Nityananda do when he approached them? They asked him to chant the names of Lord Hari. And did they agree? What did they do? Not this time, not the first time. They chased them with bad language. It happens. When I was a young devotee, I was coming, and we would always go out in the public areas and distribute Prabhupada's books, ask people to take these books like Bhagavad Gita and study them and take them home. And sometimes people would say very bad things, chase us away. So what happened? He gave a report to Lord Chaitanya, and he was very happy. But the next day, what Lord Nityananda, what did he do? Anyone remember? You know. He approached them again. And were they happy? The pot. And what happened with the pot? It cut him. Cut Nityananda. So anyone remember what Nityananda's reaction was when he was cut by a pot? He forgave them and what? Told them to chant Hare Krishna, yes. And let's see, there was two brothers, Jagai and what was the other one? Madai. So Jagai, he was the first one to react. What did he do? He fell down and offered obeisance and asked for forgiveness. But what did Madai do? Anyone know? Any of the ladies? Wait, I want one of the ladies to say. He wanted to hear them again. And his brother stopped him. So Lord Chaitanya wasn't there, but when he heard the news, what happened? He rushed there. And what did he do? He had a Sudarshan chakra. Very angry. We don't hear many stories of Lord Chaitanya being angry. But when his devotee is struck, is injured, he becomes very angry. Very angry. And he was going to kill them. But what did Lord Nityananda ask him to do? What's that? Go ahead. He stopped him, and what did he tell him to do? It's not your purpose why you came on this earth. You have to give all the people. How many? 90% of the people are like Jagai and Madai. Is it? It's true. He said, if you kill this, then you have to kill everyone. You came to deliver them, not to kill them. And that was a different incarnation. Krishna, you can kill him, but as Lord Chaitanya, you're not killing. Hmm? So what did Lord Chaitanya say? What did he say? Okay, I'll forgive you, but what? What were they supposed to do? Jagai and Madai. Give up all their sinful activities and become initiated followers of Lord Chaitanya. Very good. Let's see if there's another one. Had anyone heard this story before? A few of you. Everyone? Oh, really? Last week? Same one last week? There was another story. It was a little short I was going to read. That's little. Here's the Bhattacharya. See if I can find it. Ooh. I don't know if I can find it, but I can remember it. Maybe I can just tell it without reading it. I read it here earlier, but it's going to take me a minute. One time Lord Chaitanya was performing kirtan with his devotees, and they became very hungry. So Lord Chaitanya, he presented himself always as simply a devotee. So no special power like Krishna's God. He can do anything, right? Nothing's impossible for him. But Lord Chaitanya never presented himself like that. So they were very hungry. So this time, Lord Chaitanya said something special. It was the winter time. So in the winter, there are many fruits growing in the trees? No. Winter time, no fruits, right? So he said, bring one mango seed. And they brought a mango seed. He put it in the ground. He planted it. And just like that, it grew into a tree full of many, many fruits that were ripe immediately. Just like that, he planted it. It grew immediately and ripe, and they picked the fruits, and they could eat them immediately. So, and that tree stayed there growing for many years after that. And devotees could pick the fruits anytime. So this was a demonstration, one of the rare times where Lord Chaitanya demonstrated his supreme power. He could control the laws of nature. He could make the impossible possible. But he rarely did that. Rarely. If someone, actually, it's very common, he would go preach over different places like South India or Bengal, and people would come up and say, oh, you are Krishna. He would put his fingers in there and, no, don't want to hear that. So this is a different type of pastime. After Lord Chaitanya had accepted sannyas, he traveled to different places in India, and he would introduce this chanting of the holy name of Krishna, the Hare Krishna mantra. So this one time, there was a great meeting in this city of many sannyasis that lived there. It was a city where there was many groups of people studying the Shastra, studying the scriptures. And the head of all the scholars, his name was Prakashananda Saraswati. So when Lord Chaitanya came and he was preaching, he was chanting, they didn't consider this chanting as something, public chanting, what, a sannyasi shouldn't do that. They said that's too ordinary. Sannyasis should study the Vedas, and they should become great scholars of the Vedas, and they should be very strict and not involved with the public. But it says there was a meeting arranged by the devotees of Lord Chaitanya in which all these sannyasis that were living in this town were invited, including Lord Chaitanya and Prakashananda Saraswati. In this meeting, both the scholars, Lord Chaitanya and Bharakrishnananda, there was a long discussion on the spiritual values of the Sankirtan movement. And here's a summary. This Prakashananda, he didn't accept Krishna the way we accept Krishna. His idea was called a Mayavadi concept, in which he felt that the ultimate progression of the soul is to become God. We actually become Krishna. That was the philosophy. Comes from Sankaracharya. So he was a great Mayavadi sannyasi, and he inquired from Lord Chaitanya to the reason why he preferred this chanting Sankirtan movement to the study of the Vedanta Sutra. Prakashananda said, "It is the duty of sannyasi to read the Vedanta Sutra." But what had caused the Lord to engage in this singing and the Hare Krishna mantra and the Sankirtan? After this inquiry, Lord Chaitanya submissively replied, "I have taken to the Sankirtan movement instead of the study of Vedanta because I am a great fool." Thus the Lord represented himself as one of the numberless fools of this age who are absolutely incapable of studying the Vedanta philosophy. Fools indulge in the study of Vedanta has caused so much havoc in society. People read the Vedas and they become big philosophers and big pandits and big yogis. They actually don't understand what they're talking about. The Lord continued, "Because I am a great fool, my spiritual master," whose name was Ishwarapuri, "forbade me to play with the Vedanta philosophy. He said, 'It is better I chant the holy name of the Lord, for that would deliver me from material bondage.'" Then he recites this famous verse, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, Kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatir anyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other religion but the glorification of the Lord by the utterance of his holy name. And that is the injunction of all the revealed scriptures. And my spiritual master has taught me this sloka that I just recited. He said, "So on the order of my spiritual master, I chant the holy name of Hari, and now I am mad after this holy name. Whenever I utter the holy name, I forget myself completely. Sometimes I laugh, cry, and dance like a madman. I thought I had gone mad by this process of chanting, and therefore I asked my spiritual master about it. He informed me that this was the real effect of chanting the holy name, which produces a transcendental emotion that is a rare manifestation. It is the sign of love of God, which is the ultimate end of life. Love of God is transcendental to liberation. By chanting the holy name of Krishna, one attains to the stage of love of God. And it was good that fortunately I was favored with the blessing." On hearing this statement from the Lord, the Mayavadi sannyasi asked the Lord what harm there was in studying Vedanta along with chanting the holy name. Prakashananda knew well that the Lord was formerly known as, what was his name when he was growing up in school? Anyone remember? Nimai Pandit. He was a great Pandit. Remember, he defeated Keshava Kashmiri? He was so great a Pandit. A very learned scholar of Navadvip. And his posing as a great fool was certainly for some purpose. Hearing this inquiry by the sannyasi, the Lord smiled and said, "My dear sir, if you do not mind, I will answer your inquiry." All the sannyasis were very much pleased with the Lord for his honest dealings, and they unanimously replied that they would not be offended by whatever he replied. The Lord then spoke as follows. The Vedanta Sutra consists of transcendental words and sounds uttered by the transcendental personality of Godhead. And as such, the Vedanta cannot be any there cannot be any human deficiencies like mistake, illusion, cheating, or inefficiency in the Vedanta. The message of the Upanishads is expressed in the Vedanta Sutra, and what is said there directly is certainly glorified. Whatever interpretations have been given by Sankaracharya have no direct bearing on the sutra, and therefore such commentation spoils everything. So here what he was saying is that you study the Vedanta Sutra according to the teacher of Sankaracharya, but his interpretation has spoiled the whole message of Vedanta Sutra, which is actually Krishna's direct words. He said Sankaracharya has spoiled that message by the way he's interpreted it. The word Brahman indicates the greatest of all, which is full of transcendental opulences, superior to all. Brahman is ultimately the personality of Godhead, and he is covered by indirect interpretations and established as impersonal. Everything is in the spiritual world is full of transcendental bliss, including the form, body, place, and paraphernalia of Lord Krishna. All are eternally cognizant and blissful. It is not the fault of Acharya Shankara that he has so interpreted Vedanta, but if someone accepts it, then he is certainly doomed. Anyone who accepts the transcendental body of the personality of Godhead as something mundane certainly commits the greatest blasphemy. So all these sannyasis who were there listening, they had all accepted Sankaracharya, and they've studied this way, and now he's telling them that those interpretations are the greatest blasphemy of Lord Krishna. The Lord thus spoke to the sannyasi almost the same way that he spoke to Bhattacharya Puri, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. By forceful arguments, he nullified the Mayavadi interpretations of Vedanta Sutra. All the sannyasis there claimed that the Lord was the personified Vedas and the personality of Godhead. All the sannyasis were converted to the cult of Bhakti, and all of them accepted the holy name of Lord Sri Krishna, and they dined together with the Lord in the midst of them. After this conversion of the sannyasis, the popularity of the Lord increased in Varanasi, and the thousands of people assembled to see the Lord in person. Thus the Lord established the primary importance of the Srimad Bhagavat Dharma, and he defeated all other systems of spiritual realization. Since then, everyone at Varanasi was overwhelmed with the transcendental Sankirtan movement. So a long story full of philosophy. So anyone can remember the chief sannyasi in Varanasi who the Lord met? Remember his name? Prakashananda. And what kind of philosophy did he follow? There was a name for it. Can anyone remember? Mayavadi. And he asked Lord Chaitanya why he chanted the holy name of Krishna instead of studying Vedanta, and what did he say? Any ladies know? Why? What was his response? What did Lord Chaitanya, why he chanted Hare Krishna instead of studying? He was a great fool. And he said his spiritual master forbade him to play and study the Vedanta. It's better to chant the holy name of Krishna. But he said he was chanting, and then what happened to him? Anybody remember when he was chanting what happened to him? He became mad. He was chanting, and anyway, he became full of all kinds of emotions, transcendental emotions. So he asked his spiritual master about this, and what was he told? Anybody remember? Just briefly what he was told? Was this good or bad? These feelings he had, this madness. It was good. It was the goal. It was the ultimate achievement, the perfection of the chanting, to feel this transcendental mood of love for the Lord that makes you mad. So he said he was very fortunate and that he had received his blessing very well. So then the Lord spoke directly with the sannyasis, and they asked him about Vedanta. And what did he say about Shankaracharya and his teachings of Vedanta? Hmm?
Interpretation is
Not good. Not good, yes. He spoiled everything. In fact, he said if somebody accepts it, what will happen to them? Doomed. Yes. And that person commits the greatest what? Blasphemy of the Supreme Lord. So these sannyasis were all following this, and what did they say when they heard all this? What was their reaction? Did they send him away? No. They all became devotees, and they chanted the holy name of Krishna. All of them. 10,000. There was 10,000 sannyasis there, and they all chanted Hare Krishna. They gave up studying Vedanta. It was a revolution, a total revolution. I don't know how much more time we should go, but there's many, many interesting stories. Oh no, I think these ones go. There are many other things here. Let me see here if I have one here. Okay, this is one we can read here. When the Lord was traveling all throughout India and preaching and chanting, doing public chanting, so he traveled on his tour toward the north of India, an area he was approaching Vrindavan and neighboring places. He passed through the jungles of Jarikunda, which is Madhya Bharata, and all the wild animals there in the forest joined his Sankirtan movement. Wild tigers, elephants, bears, and deer all together accompanied the Lord, and the Lord accompanied them in Sankirtan. By this he proved that by the propagation of Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting and glorifying the holy name of the Lord, even wild animals can live in peace and friendship. What to speak of men who are supposed to be civilized? No man in the world will refuse to join the Sankirtan movement, nor is the Lord's Sankirtan movement restricted to any caste, creed, color, or species. Here is the direct evidence of his great mission. He allowed even the wild animals to partake in his great movement. So anyone can remember the name of this jungle? Jarikunda. And what happened there? Anyone?
animals following.
Wild animals. I don't know if you've ever seen the picture, but the tigers, ferocious tigers, were actually dancing with the timid deer. Are they friends normally? Deer and tiger? No, the deer. Deer is the food for them. But they had absolutely no fear. No fear. Because they were focused on just chanting. They were in a transcendental state of consciousness. So all fear was gone. And all animosity, all anger, and all antagonism, envy was also all gone. So in this way they could coexist. Even animals which are not using their intelligence, I should not act like this. They were animals, and still by the effect of the Sankirtan, it was like a miracle that all these animals could peacefully be there. Not just they were just mowing around, but they're actually dancing and trying to chant the names of Krishna. We may have a hard time to imagine that, but they were, by the effects of Lord Chaitanya's presence there with them. So, does anybody remember what this means for the world? Do you have any idea? What does it imply? Who can chant the holy name? Everybody. Hmm? Definitely. So that's why Prabhupada said this chanting Hare Krishna is the peace formula for the world. He said, you have United Nations, and every year there's more flags going up. That means every year people are saying, we are different, we are separate from you. He said, there's no harmony coming from the United Nations. He said, but this chanting is the real peace formula. Real peace formula. Everyone can coexist. I was just in our headquarters, Mayapur in West Bengal, where Lord Chaitanya appeared. That's his birthplace. And the ISKCON has a big center there. And when I was there, you just walk around on the sidewalks and you see people from every part of the country, every part of the globe, and they're all chanting Hare Krishna. And they're all peaceful and happy. And then they have the big kirtan in the temple. They're all jumping up and down and dancing in ecstasy. It doesn't, only the Indians are chanting or only the... No, everyone. It is the real United Nations. Where else have you seen this? This ISKCON is non-sectarian. It's not just for one group of people. I hope you don't feel offended by that, but when I came to this movement in 1975, by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, there were very few in Detroit, Michigan, very few Indian families coming then. It was all Western people. And for us, the Bhagavad Gita was something totally new and foreign in one sense. We had never seen it before, at least I hadn't. But we could still practice this and get the same result that Srila Prabhupada was demonstrating in his own life. Well, actually, I came a little late in Prabhupada's life. Prabhupada left this world November 14, 1977, and I first came to the temple in September 1975. So by that time, things had changed a little bit. Prabhupada had many sannyasis he made, and he had different directors who were managing many temples. So it wasn't so easy just to go see Prabhupada. In the very early days, 1966, 67, 68, anyone could come and they could just go sit in Prabhupada's room and talk with him. But when I came, it was so many people were there that you had to have certain permission to go and see, talk. But still, it was very wonderful. Srila Prabhupada was there. We got to, one time he went on a walk in a park there in Detroit. So I got to go with him. And he spoke some different things. It was very nice. You could see there was some wild deer that were there in the park. And when they saw Srila Prabhupada, they just stopped. They didn't move. They just watched him with his eyes. They were not afraid. They didn't run away. They just stood there and watching him because they were totally attracted to the pure devotee of the Lord. And when Srila Prabhupada was there, he liked to meet with many different people who were well positioned in society. So our temple was, like right here on the corner, and the opposite corner was a big Catholic church who took a whole block. So they invited some leaders from the church to come meet with Prabhupada. Mm. And they were discussing with him what should the spiritual organization should do. And so they were asking Prabhupada, so what do you do for the handicapped people? Mm. Because Catholic Church, that's the background I was raised in, they're very big on charitable work. They try to help the poor and sick and elderly. They consider that a high religious activity, one of their main activities. But Prabhupada, they asked him, what about the handicapped people? And they were asking what to do. Prabhupada said, handicapped is handy cut. In other words, their hands are, like if your hands are cut, what can you do? We can benefit them some with prasadam and chanting, but they cannot, they're restricted what they can do. Mm. So they thought that was the highest welfare work, and Prabhupada was trying to indicate these people are, they can only do so much. You can try to preach to them a little bit, but they're restricted. And Prabhupada went on to speak to them. I don't know if you know, in the Catholic Church, they have their Mass. That's their religious ceremony. And in the Mass, they, at one point, they hand out these these wafers to people who come up and take and eat them as a holy sacrament. So the priests were a little concerned. He said, so many young people are coming to your temple. And yet we find the young people are not so much coming into our churches now. And Prabhupada said he had just handed out to them some Mahaprabhu burfi and rasgulla. And he said to them, they were eating these rasgulla and burfi. He said, if you take these sweets and you introduce passing those out in your Mass, they will all come back to your church. What? Yeah. So there was other things that had been said and done by Srila Prabhupada. There are many books written, actually. One friend of mine, Hari Sari, he has written 5 books, and he's going to finish 2 more in the next couple of years. And there's many, many books. The Lilamrita is in 7 volumes. So we could go on many, many hours and days speaking about Prabhupada. But it looks like we're going to take some prasadam now. So maybe we can stop here for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to speak about Lord Chaitanya. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Anybody want to ask anything?
I couldn't understand what Prabhupada replied for the handicap.
He said handicap is handy cut.
Okay.
In other words, how much can you help a person whose hand is cut? You can't give them a new hand.
But
You can feed them, but you can't change the body.
body-wise is fine, but you can.
Yeah.
Other means, right? You can.
So he said, we are trying to take care of the soul.
So it doesn't matter if he's handicapped or.
They can come. We can help them. But he was more concerned about the soul than about the body.
So it doesn't matter if you're handicapped or not.
No, that doesn't matter.
That part was.
Because each soul is meant to go back to be with Krishna. So what is the procedure now? They wait and say the prayer or what?
Yeah, kids will.
The kids are coming?